Old School is back. Eidos Interactive, Dave. Do you remember them? Of course you do.
I remember Eidos Interactive, and I also remember Core, which is another thing that was on the box art for this very game. Do you remember Eidos and Core design?
Yes, I do, mate. I do. We had Tomb Raider.
Yes, we did indeed. And also Fear Effect, a survival horror game.
Oh, yes, that's right. I never played that, I have to admit. But obviously Tomb Raider, everyone played. This is not Tomb Raider, guys. This is... What's it called, Dave?
It's called Fighting Force 2 on the PlayStation, on the Sony PlayStation. Here it is.
I don't remember this. I know I say that in a lot of these old school videos, guys. Dave likes to introduce me to games that I wouldn't have played, and vice versa. I'll do it for Dave as well. This is a game I never played, so it's another one to check off my list. Yeah, I can't wait to try this.
This is one I actually remember seeing on a demo disc, you know, the PlayStation Magazine demo discs.
Yes, I do. I remember that.
That's how I saw this game and played it off of that demo disc, and I was quite impressed because some of the brawlers that we used to like, the Streets of Rages, the Final Fights, this game kind of reminds me of those.
Is it going to be you playing? I think it is.
I think it is, yeah. I don't think this is two-player, which is a shame, because this would have been really good as a two-player game.
Okay. Yeah, the reason I say I'm looking forward to playing, I just assumed this would have been a two-player brawler type affair. Oh, wow, look at this.
Yeah, so...
I'm going to pull up the wiki, mate, as you play, just to see what reception this got, that kind of thing.
Yeah, okay, yeah, so I can grab my knife with triangle. Ah, okay, so I get the access card, I go to a door, presumably, and I can use the access card. There we go. I'm in the door. Here we go.
This looks super cool. I would have loved this game.
Yeah, it's quite good fun. So another access card, so presumably I'm just beating guards up at the moment. And again, door opens because I've got it.
Yes. The thud. So, yeah, I can't remember if you said at the top of the video, mate. This was on the Dreamcast as well, apparently.
Wow, okay. I wasn't aware of a Dreamcast version. That's interesting.
Dave, I'm going to do this to you again. So, do you remember last week we played Courier Crisis and you thought it was okay?
Yeah.
And I got out the reviews.
Yes.
I'm sorry to do this to you again, mate. So, review scores for this game, guys, back in the day. We'll start off here with Edge magazine. Edge was a magazine by Future Publishing that I bought every month for years. I loved it. But anyway, Edge were very hard at reviewing their games. They were very strict. So always take Edge with a pinch of salt. Edge scored this game 4 out of 10.
Whoa, 4 out of 10.
And then Game Informer scored this at a 5.2 out of 10. GameSpot gave this a 3.5 out of 10.
Whoa, okay.
GameSpy, I'm not familiar with GameSpy. They scored this 4 out of 10. And IGN scored this a 3.6 out of 10. And last but not least, Next Generation. Again, we talked about these on our previous old school video. I'm not familiar with Next Generation. They scored this a 2 out of 5.
Wow.
Okay. So not the best scores. Did official PlayStation Magazine review this? Yes, they did. They gave it a 2 out of 5.
Wow. So even they didn't like it, and they included it on their demo disc.
Let's see what people's issues with this game were. Blake Fisher of Next Gen, so I assume Blake Fisher was a reviewer, said it in its February 2000 issue that the PlayStation version was solid, but ultimately uninspiring. You'll burn out on this game long before you beat it. Makes sense, because it's one of those games we fire up for old school and it looks cool. But could you play it for 5 or 6 hours?
No, probably not. Because one thing I'm going to say about this is the controls are very, very loose. It's a bit sort of all over the place.
Due to its lackluster sales and less than pleased fan base, the series eventually ended. A third game was in development, but it was cancelled.
Wow, so I wonder if the third game would have been on the PS2.
Probably, yeah, probably. And I was going to say whatever came after the Dreamcast, but nothing did.
Unfortunately not for Sega, no. That was when they decided to pull the plug on video games consoles.
Yeah, which still saddens me to this day, because I think the Dreamcast, like many, many, many people, was a fantastic console, maybe a little bit too ambitious for its time.
Maybe,
but
yeah.
That's for another video. I think this looks okay. Graphically, I would have... The thing with the PS1 as well, it had a lot of little niche titles on it, which you could pop into an indie game store and pick up for 20 quid, like Disruptor, the first-person shooter we actually featured on this old school series a few months ago. This would have been in that category for me. I would have enjoyed this.
Yeah, Disruptor was pretty cool. This, again, with the controls being a bit fiddly, it's a bit annoying. But this isn't terrible by any means, but it's also not brilliant.
Because sometimes I like to change of pace from your big AAA obvious games like Tomb Raider, like Resident Evil. I liked, again, these little niche titles that hit the PlayStation and which made the PlayStation 2 such fantastic consoles because their library of games.
Yeah, there was a diverse
but this looks
library of games.
Yeah, very diverse.
Yeah.
But this looks a little bit, like you say, mate, a bit fiddly. Like, where are you supposed to go?
Exactly, that's what I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to figure out where I'm supposed to go now, because it said that I needed a red card key. Right, I've just beaten the absolute living daylights out of that, but I'm still... Ah, there we go. There was the red card key. There you go. So I did do the right thing by backtracking and doing that, so that's reassuring. I've not quite lost my touch.
It's all very vague, isn't it?
Yeah. So here's the red door. There we go.
I mean, this was the era where there was no hand-holding.
Yeah.
Today, you just have objective markers everywhere,
Yeah,
telling you where to go next. You didn't really have that back then, or not from what I can remember anyway.
I certainly can't remember it being hand-holding all the way. Definitely not. Today's games as well, you usually get cutscene explaining this, then you play for 5 seconds. Cutscene explaining the next thing, you play for 5 seconds.
Yeah, that grinds my gears. It does.
Yeah.
It gets frustrating. I just want to pick up and I want to play. Again, I always go back to this, guys. This is why I enjoy the Dark Souls games these days. There's no hand-holding. You just start playing. There's little mini tutorials which you have to read by reading bits of paper on the floor and that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
and it takes me back to this generation of gaming where here you go. Here's a tiny cutscene at the beginning on the PS1 because CD we had CD movie, didn't we? But generally it was like throws you into the game, now play, and just figure the hell out what you're supposed to do, which is what Dave is doing here. It's like Resident Evil, one of the biggest titles on the PS1. Yes, it had that intro movie.
Yeah.
But then it just throws you in. You've got to work out what you're doing, and you'll spend hours running around. I loved that about gaming back then.
It was more interesting because it made you explore, because you had to figure out where you're going to go next. It made you appreciate more of the game, because otherwise, if it's hand-holding, you'll just walk past some potentially interesting parts of the game.
Yeah, I don't think developers trust gamers these days because, yes, gaming then had difficulty levels which you selected, but a lot of the time it locks you into that difficulty. So you choose normal. You're locked into normal unless you want to start the game again from the beginning. These days, it's just like, here you go, you can play on very easy at any time, just hit pause, flick it down to easy, there you go. It's like developers insult us a little bit. It's like gamers don't always want that. They want a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. Here we go. Different section that I've not been in. Yeah, different section I've not been in. But yeah, I can see why this didn't get particularly great reviews, because it would get monotonous and boring quite quickly for me.
Yeah, uninspiring was a word I saw used in a few different reviews when looking at the wiki, and it is uninspired, isn't it? It's a bit cookie cutter from a gameplay design perspective, but I still would have liked it. It's got the Metal Gears about it, even though it's not a stealth game. It's got that kind of atmosphere, I guess. Is it? Yeah, it's fiddly to play. Is it difficult just to climb up that ladder? What's going on there?
That's what I'm trying to figure out, is what button am I supposed to be pressing to climb that ladder?
Because it does look fiddly as hell, this does.
Because that's punching and kicking, that's selecting weapons. Ah, there we go.
What was the button?
X.
But you had to be perfectly sort of lined up with the ladder to climb. I hate that with some games. It does annoy me, that. And again, that's poor gameplay design.
Yeah, it is. Some modern games do that, though, still, don't they?
They
you
do.
have to be perfectly lined up with something or it doesn't work.
for me, that's where the good modern games get it right, where you will just get a prompt quickly with an X popping up, and you hit it, and you'll climb the ladder. You don't need to be spending time messing around trying to climb ladders and that kind of thing. But yeah, this is what's it called, Dave?
It's called Fighting Force 2.
Dave's not a fighting force anymore. He's just jumped off a ledge. Check back to the channel, guys, for more old school content, retro football, arcade memories. We've got loads planned. We'll speak to you all soon. Take care.